Karen's silhouette loomed like a bad omen. Her polyester police uniform straining at the seams as she jabbed a plastic gun at my son's chest. The park, usually a haven for kids' laughter, was dead silent except for her shrill voice, dripping with self-righteous venom. It was supposed to be a quiet Saturday evening. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and gray, and the air carried that crisp autumn bite. My son, Jamal, 16 and lanky with a smile that could charm anyone, was skateboarding with his friends in the neighborhood park. I was at home, sipping coffee, blissfully unaware that our little corner of suburbia was about to become a stage for Karen's unhinged performance. Jamal had always been a good kid, straight ass, respectful, the kind of boy who'd help an old lady cross the street without being asked. But to Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, he was just another troublemaker who dared to exist in her pristine world. She'd been terrorizing the neighborhood for years, waddling around with her clipboard, citing people for untrimmed hedges or kids playing too loudly. Nobody liked her, but nobody crossed her either. She had a knack for making life miserable. Petty fines, snide comments, and that insufferable smirk that said she was better than everyone else. That evening, though, Karen crossed a line nobody saw coming. Jamal told me later how it started. He was practicing a kickflip near the park's pavilion when Karen stormed over, her face redder than the sunset. "You're trespassing," she barked, though the park was public property. Jamal, polite as always, tried to explain he wasn't breaking any rules. But Karen wasn't having it. She thrived on control, and his calm demeanor only fueled her rage. What happened next was pure insanity. Karen, in a move that could only be described as delusional, pulled out a toy gun, one of those cheap plastic things you'd find at a dollar store, and pointed it at Jamal. She'd apparently bought a knockoff police uniform online, complete with a shiny badge that screamed, "Cosplay gone wrong." To her, this was her moment to play hero, to teach a kid she'd already judged guilty. To Jamal, it was a moment of raw fear, the kind that makes your heart stop and your legs feel like jelly. "You think you can disrespect me?" she screeched, her voice echoing across the empty park. "I'm the law around here." The toy gun shook in her meaty hands. But to Jamal, it looked real enough in the fading light. He froze, hands up, his skateboard clattering to the ground. Two bystanders, an elderly woman walking her dog and a young guy jogging nearby, stopped dead in their tracks, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. I wasn't there to see it, but the elderly woman, Mrs. Carter, later told me how Karen's eyes gleamed with a sick kind of glee. She was drunk on power, oblivious to the absurdity of her actions. Mrs. Carter, bless her, had the presence of mind to pull out her phone and dial 911. The jogger, a college kid named Ethan, started filming, his hands trembling but his resolve firm. "This is going viral," he muttered under his breath. Karen, lost in her fantasy of authority, didn't notice the real deputies pulling into the park. Their cruiser rolled up silently, lights off, just as she was screaming at Jamal to get on the ground. The irony was almost poetic. Karen, the fake cop, was about to meet the real ones. Deputy Ramirez was the first to step out, his face a mask of calm professionalism. His partner, Deputy Lee, flanked him, her hand resting lightly on her holster. "Ma'am," Ramirez called out, his voice steady but firm. "Put the weapon down. Now." Karen spun around, her smug expression melting into panic. The toy gun suddenly felt heavier in her hands. as if it had morphed into a real threat. "To him, an officer," she stammered, pointing to her fake badge. "I'm handling a situation." Ramirez didn't blink. "Ma'am," I said, "drop it. You're not an officer. You're holding a weapon on a minor." The park was a pressure cooker now. Jamal stood frozen, his eyes darting between Karen and the deputies. "Mrs. Carter clutched her dog's leash, whispering prayers under her breath. Ethan kept filming, his phone capturing every second of Karen's unraveling. Karen's bravado crumbled like a house of cards. She dropped the toy gun, and it hit the ground with a pathetic clatter, the cheap plastic betraying her charade. "This is a misunderstanding," she wailed, her voice cracking. "I'm protecting the neighborhood. These kids are out of control." Deputy Lee stepped forward, her expression a mix of disgust and pity. "You're not protecting anyone," she said. "You're scaring a kid with a fake gun. That's not authority, that's a crime." The cuffs came out, and Karen's face contorted in a way that was almost comical if it weren't so pathetic. She blubbered, tears streaming down her cheeks, as Ramirez read her rights. "You can't do this," she screamed. "I'm on the HOA board. I know people." Jamal, still shaken, finally lowered his hands. "Mrs. Carter shuffled over, offering him a bottle of water from her bag, her voice soft and reassuring. Ethan stopped filming and gave Jamal a nod, a silent acknowledgement of the kid's composure under pressure. I got the call from Mrs. Carter as the deputies were loading Karen into the cruiser. My heart sank as she recounted the scene, and I was out the door before she finished talking. When I arrived, Jamal was sitting on a bench, his skateboard in his lap, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. I pulled him into a hug, my chest tight with a mix of relief and rage. Karen's stunt wasn't just a one-off tantrum, it was the culmination of years of unchecked entitlement. She'd bullied neighbors, harassed kids, and weaponized her HOA power to make everyone's life miserable. But this time, she'd gone too far. Impersonating an officer, threatening a minor with a fake weapon, it was a line you don't cross without consequences. The fallout was swift. Karen was charged with impersonation and assault with a deadly weapon, the toy gun, while fake was deemed threatening enough in context. The HOA, desperate to save face, stripped her of her position. Ethan's video went viral, racking up millions of views and sparking a flood of memes and think pieces about Karen culture and the dangers of unchecked privilege. But the real impact was quieter, more personal. Jamal, my brave, kind-hearted boy, was shaken in a way that no kid should be. We talked late into the night, him curled up on the couch, me trying to make sense of how someone could see a threat in a kid just being a kid. "She didn't even know me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "She just saw what she wanted to see." I didn't have an answer for that. All I could do was hold him and promise that we'd get through it together. Mrs. Carter and Ethan became unexpected allies, checking in on us, sharing stories of their own run-ins with Karen's tyranny. The neighborhood rallied, too, with petitions to reform the HOA and make sure no one else could wield power like that again. Karen's trial was a spectacle, but not in the way she'd hoped. She sat in court, her once smug face pale and defeated, as the judge laid into her about responsibility and the harm she'd caused. Her sentence wasn't harsh community service and a hefty fine, but the real punishment was the loss of her self-proclaimed throne. She moved away a month later. Her house sold quietly, her name a cautionary tale whispered at neighborhood barbecues. For Jamal, healing took time. He went back to skateboarding. But there was a new caution in his eyes, a weight no teenager should carry. Yet he also found strength in it. He started volunteering with a local youth group, mentoring younger kids, teaching them to stand tall even when the world tries to push them down. As for me, I learned something about justice, not the loud, viral kind, but the quiet kind that comes from community, from people like Mrs. Carter and Ethan stepping up when it mattered. Karen thought she was untouchable, but she forgot one thing: even the smallest voices, when they come together, can bring down a giant.